The DolphinsTalk.com podcast network is sponsored by Caneswear. Caneswear is the place to go for officially licensed apparel for the Miami Dolphins, Miami Heat, the Hurricanes, Florida Panthers, and all of the professional and college teams in South Florida. Looking for the latest jersey, a birthday gift, or the newest hat to hit the market of your favorite South Florida team? Check out Caneswear for their overwhelming selection of sports apparel. Located at 2655 South University Drive, Davie, Florida, Caneswear has it all. Not in South Florida? No worries. Visit Caneswear.com to shop their inventory from the comfort of your home, and they'll ship it to you. International fans, too. Caneswear.com is the spot that Miami fans shop. That's Caneswear.com, Caneswear.com.
You're listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the most listened to daily Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet.
Miami's got the Dolphins, the greatest of all.
Come on, Dolphins fans. Time to fins up.
We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl. Cause we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one. Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dolphins Talk. My name is Marissa Marino, and joining me today is the very talented and knowledgeable Omar Kelly. Omar, how are you today?
I would dispute the knowledgeable part, but I am talented. I'm doing fine. Wonderful.
Good. Well, I'm going to go with knowledgeable because I get a lot of my stuff from you and what you post, so I'm sticking with it.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we have a preseason game coming up today, so I know you are a busy man, so we are just going to dive right into it if that's good with you.
Excellent. Always a pleasure.
Awesome. And everybody that's listening, just so you know, if you're not familiar with Omar Kelly, first of all, shame on you. But second, he is a columnist with the Miami Herald. He is a beat reporter, boots on the ground, watching all of the action for preseason Miami Dolphins and in season. So we are excited to have him join. So we're going to get right in and talk about one of your favorite topics that you've talked about and studied, which is that offensive line. And
wow, offensive line right out the gate.
Oh, right
no
out the gate.
Questions, no Brian.
No, we just got to go right for it because this is what the people want to know. And then after this, everything else is just like a walk in the park, right?
Okay.
All right.
You know what's interesting about the offensive line? Even though there are two unsettled spots on it, there hasn't been one single day where there's actually been a legit competition, which is weird. Just absolutely weird. But then if you think about it, outside of the quarterback for the backup number 2 spot, there hasn't been any competition in camp at all. Not a single competition.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I've ever seen that during my career, but it's
Could
like
it
everybody.
because there's not much depth in the O-line?
No, I'm talking about a competition anywhere. Anywhere.
Okay. Anywhere. Oh, anywhere.
Cornerback, linebacker. We thought Tier Tart Benito Jones would be a competition. That didn't last long. Tight end. I'm not really sure you can call Tanner Connor and Jody Fortson and Julian Hill a competition. No.
Yeah.
So there, I mean, everybody's got clear-cut roles. On the offensive line, to answer your question, is it good enough? No. But we're also not concerned. We're also not seeing it without Teron Armstead.
Okay.
Without Aaron Brewer. Without Isaiah Wynn. So we're going into it without 3 of the projected 5 starters on the line to evaluate them.
Correct.
And on top of that, just the scheme in itself, they've had success in the run game in both exhibition games because the exhibition games is the only time you can really test out the run game because nobody's really hitting anybody in a practice, even in a joint practice. So the fact that they've been able to sustain a run game gives me some confidence. When Aaron Brewer gets back in and maybe Liam Eichenberg goes back to right guard or settles in, I don't know. Maybe it'll look better. When when not Laramie Tunsil, Teron Armstead is finally cleared for contact and practice, and he's practiced because the line, if you haven't gotten it, the line is drastically better with Armstead than it is without Armstead.
Yes.
Love Kendall Lamb, but he's not Teron Armstead. Teron Armstead, you can just slide all the protection to the right, and everybody else is responsible for everything else. Teron's got his spot. So all you really need to do is focus on Teron being healthy, and they have done that. I don't know if Teron has taken 12 snaps of 11-on-11s in a month. And I don't know if I don't have a problem with that because I know he just needs to get to the season healthy.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
100%. Well, okay, so let me ask you this. If, Teron Armstead has to miss, well, I don't think it's if. He probably will miss a game, sadly. When that happens, do you think they go to Kendall Lamb as the backup left tackle, or do you think it could be our new rookie, Patrick Paul?
I think it's going to be the rookie because you have to test him. You have to give him opportunities to show you that he's ready or he's not ready.
Okay.
And Kendall Lamb will be that break in case of emergency. Kendall works on both sides. Patrick Paul only works left tackle. Okay. So, and then you got to factor in Teron is not going to practice every single day. So if I'm the Dolphins, I might practice Teron one day a week, and then he does a Friday workout, which is not really much. Fridays are very light. So Teron practices Wednesday, takes Thursday off. Then he's back to work Friday. And so that Thursday practice, Patrick Paul is probably going to get that simulated look as a starter. So they're going to be able to assess and really understand where he is. I just did a superlatives, my training camp superlatives, which is now on the Miami Herald. And I named Patrick Paul my most impressive rookie. And, I know everybody's obsessed with Chop Robinson.
I was going to say, that surprises me a little bit.
It shouldn't. There aren't that many human beings that big, that athletic, that strong with those arms on this earth.
Yeah.
Maybe 40 of them.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, how his arms are like.
Yeah, supposedly has the wingspan of a 7'4" man because his arms are very long.
Wow.
And then what I liked about what I saw from him in the exhibition season is that he has got a nasty temperament, or at least he's playing like he has a nasty temperament. Now, it helps when you're always blocking guys who are 50 pounds lighter than you to be nasty, because you push them, they move, and then you can just continue to push them, and they're not going to push you back because you're a giant. However, when he faces the Myles Garrett of the world, we could be changing our tune there.
Right.
So it and I just think it'll be interesting to see what happens when he does get that green light to go play.
Okay.
I don't think he's going to be a liability in the pass game. I was worried about his run game, and his run game looks pretty good. So I'm good to go with him. I think he's a stud in the making.
Well, that's really great to hear. And since you're right there in the midst of it, I'm going to take your word on that. So I'm excited. And plus, it doesn't hurt that helmet that he wears. I mean, if I was lining up against him, that's like some Darth Vader-esque. Like, I would be very intimidated.
It's like Bane from Batman.
It's scary looking. So, really quickly before we move on from the O-line. So when Brewer returns, you said you didn't see much competition, but let me ask you this. Is there competition between Eichenberg or Driscoll at all? Is that up in the air, or do you think it's an automatic shoo-in for Liam Eichenberg at the right guard position?
You want the truth?
I want the truth.
Okay. If I were Butch Barry, and I do not have the credentials of Butch Barry, and he has earned my confidence and trust, which is very hard to do because I don't trust people. Last season was just a masterful performance by Butch Barry. It would be Jack Driscoll as the starter. Okay. Now, for some reason, they have Jack Driscoll playing behind Lester Cotton, who, when Liam Eichenberg had to go move inside to center, Lester Cotton was the number 3. Jack Driscoll was the number 2. You think you just elevate Jack Driscoll and then elevate Lester Cotton, but they said, no, we're going to swap them.
Yeah.
And this coaching staff has a very soft spot for Liam Eichenberg.
Mm.
And when he had to go do the center work, Liam was pissed because Liam doesn't want to play center. He has to keep playing center, but he doesn't want to play center. He wanted an opportunity to settle into the right guard spot, perform, and not open the door for anybody else to take his job. Now, when he had to move, they didn't say, hey, Jack, go in there and see if you could take Liam's job. No, they said, Jack, no, wait a minute. We need to put Lester here, and Lester's not going to take Liam's job. So it was like the safe thing to do. Based on past 2 preseason games, and that's really Jack Driscoll is not a great practice performer, but based on the past 2 preseason games, I would say he's probably one of the best linemen they have. Why they won't let him compete for that job? Probably because they don't want to hurt Liam's confidence.
Okay.
But I would have been testing that thing out for the last 2 weeks. But obviously, the Dolphins, they do what's in their best interest, and I think in their best interest is keeping Liam confident.
Well, there we go. We'll roll with that. Now, I know at first you were like, let's talk about Tua. So we are going to see, you did that. You did great with the O-line question. So look, that's out of the way. We're good. Moving on to Tua, always a hot topic with Dolphin fans. How do you think he looked in training camp practice and everything that you saw? And did you see anything new from him this year that you didn't see last preseason?
He might have had one bad practice, which is just consistency. And keep in mind, I'm saying a bad practice when he's working with Eric Uzakama, Braxton Berrios, Malik Washington, who, let's be real about it, most of those guys wouldn't even make 15 teams, 53-man roster.
Right.
And he's fine. He's fine. Tua has shown so much growth from a leadership standpoint. He's exerting his alphaness. This is his team now. He acts like it. He talks like it. Everybody else gets in line. He's a little bit slimmer. He looks like he's putting on a little bit of weight.
Muscle.
He came to camp slimmer. He's always going to be thick, which is what people don't get. Like, his body is just thick. His body, he's a thickum. He's just so, you know, that doesn't bother me, but he came to camp slimmer. And then this is the one thing that I was very skeptical about, because I don't think I've ever seen it done, is I've never seen a quarterback improve their arm strength. Never, ever in my life, 20-something years of doing this, never seen it. Not a big fan of John Beck, not a big believer in what he coaches, what he teaches, none of that bull crap. I was very upfront that I didn't understand how one of the worst quarterbacks of this decade for Dolphins history is going to help the best quarterback of this decade in Dolphins history. But there's some string theory arm stuff that Beck did with Tua, and it's probably made him throw this much with this much more velocity. There's a tad bit more velocity there. And I'm like, oh, okay, this works. Now, could it have been loss of weight, 3 years removed from the hip? Because hips control your power as well. He's throwing like I remember him throwing at Alabama. Now, it's never been the deep ball. It's always, to me, the 15-yard outs, the quick hitches to the sideline. How fast do they get there? Tua is never going to be a cannon arm guy. He's never going to be Josh Allen, ever, in his life. But Josh Allen is never going to be Tua. Accuracy, Josh Allen doesn't have. Velocity, yes. Accuracy, no. Tua has accuracy. Now, he's got a little bit of velocity. Now, does that mean he can throw a 15-yard out consistently? No. But that's just when you know your quarterback, you don't put them in that position to do things like that. But however, I will say this. A lot of people are always like, oh, Tua can't play in the clutch. Well, you know what? You know what happens in the clutch moments when you're trailing and teams know you're trying to drive to go win the game. They're playing what you do, and you need to throw what you don't do. And I've always, I'll tell this to you, you'll be the first person I ever tell this to, and this is not something I say publicly. There's usually one practice that Tua always struggles in, the situational periods where they put the defense down, the offense down by 4 points. They give Tua 2 minutes and 53 seconds, and he's got to drive the length of the field to go do it. He always struggles with it. And you know why he always struggles with it? Because Miami's defense always knows what he's doing. So that means they always play for what he's doing. And then they force him to throw things that he's not comfortable with, like a 15-yard out. And it just never goes well for him. My hope is that the work that he's done this offseason will help him play better in those situations, because it's throughout his whole career, anytime they go to that period in practice, I'm always watching and I'm always like, oh, is he going to do it this time? And it never happens. And it didn't happen this year either. So we'll see.
Well, that is some insider information for sure. And yes, we do hope that he can get through that, because that's a point that's been an issue for the Miami Dolphins and for Tua. So hopefully he'll adjust, and we'll see some things from him this season that look a little differently. So let's talk about this wide receiver core. So River Craycraft, I was so set on like him being a household name this season, out for an extended period of time.
Name.
Wow. Minus the Dolphins, I really thought he had the potential. I've been saying this for a couple years, like him having the potential to like be known in households as River Craycraft. Do you not see that?
No, but okay. I will say he was having a very good camp before he got hurt.
So then, yeah, you agree he was on his way to being a household name.
No. Devon Achane isn't even a household name, and he's the NFL record holder for yards per carry average.
Yeah.
River is promise. River shows so much development and progression, and I don't count against him. I used to put him off my 53-man roster every year. I stopped doing that. He was clearly the number 3 receiver on this team, and then injuries happen. And to me, that's the nature of the NFL. Guys are going to go down in this league. It just happens all the time. You got to be able to overcome the adversity. And I don't know if this team can do it, because like literally every day it's a laundry list of guys who are out with injuries or out nursing injuries. And I know it's training camp, and one of my colleagues, Chris Perkins, jokes it's country club McDaniel. I don't know how to feel about it, because do you really need to grind players into the ground during training camp anymore in this era of the NFL? Like, damn, the whole season's a marathon, But the one concern I have about this team is injuries. Yeah. It's going. Let's just look at the exhibition season. This is just a perfect example. You play 2 games. In those 2 games, you've lost 3 players to serious injuries each. So that's 6. Imagine if this trend continues, and let's just go down and say, okay, it's not 3 that we're losing, it's 2. And we lose those 2 for 4 to 5 weeks. Can you sustain success by losing 2 players a week for a month? And then by the time you get to December, what's it going to look like? And that's why your depth is always got to be good. Your depth is always got to be tested. Your depth, the weakest link, the Channing Tindalls, the Jonathan Harrises, the Nick Needhams, the Malik Washingtons, they got to be good enough. You got to believe in them. You got to believe in them. You got to invest in them. And I don't know if this is I said it last year, and I really looked stupid initially, because I was like, yeah, I don't know about this team's depth last year. And everybody's like, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. And then they were winning, and everybody was rubbing it in my face.
Yeah.
Hey, look at this. You were worried about depth. They won with backups on the field. And then the injuries happened at the end of the year.
Lo and behold. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not me taking a victory lap. The NFL is a league of survival. Cincinnati Bengals, they lost their starting quarterback. One of the teams in the New York Jets lost their starting quarterback. one of these teams in the AFC East is going to lose their starting quarterback.
Yeah.
You figure out which one. You just gotta hope it's not you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Lamar Jackson, missed the playoffs a year ago. You just don't know. And so it's got to be the right guy. And also, you can't afford to lose the pillars. You can't afford to lose the Jaylen Ramseys. You can't afford to lose Teron Armstead, even though you got a pretty good backup now. You can't afford to lose Zach Sealer or Calais Campbell. You can't afford to lose Jordan Brooks. The guys you can't afford to lose, man, you better make sure that they're healthy for the entire season, or you better make sure they got a really good backup that's really ready to step forward and play well. And to me, that's really the only concern I have about these Dolphins. People are like, oh, how will they play in December? Can they be playoff teams? Yeah. Oh, the offensive line, this, that. I don't worry about anything. I think they'll be a good team. They're a well-coached team. They've got talent. They've got a lot of leadership. They've got alpha males. They've got dogs on the roster. There's been a change of the attitude. What I worry about is injuries. Just flat out.
Yeah, rightfully so. I think that is rightfully so. Well, hopefully we don't get bit anymore with that injury bug, because obviously we can't afford it. So
you're gonna. It's the nature of this league. It's a league of survival. It's a physical game. There isn't a player by the time you get into December that's not playing with something. So
right.
We'll see. We'll see.
All right. Well, moving on, I know you said you're working on your official 53-man roster. So let me ask you this. Do you think that the Miami Dolphins will carry more than 3 tight ends this season?
No, but I count Ingold as a tight end too, because they kind of play the same position. So I have 4: Ingold, Smith, Jonnu, and Hill, Julian Hill.
Okay.
And I think Tanner Fortson does not deserve to be on the 53, and Tanner Connor does.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've heard that he's had a great training camp.
He had a great training camp before he got hurt.
Yeah.
And now we haven't seen him for 2 weeks.
Right.
And the way that I look at this roster now is, and this has been a shift from years past, is if I don't worry about people claiming you, I put you on my 53. Who's claiming Tanner Connor? Think about it. Who's really claiming Tanner Connor? Right. And then when they do claim him and he's on their 53-man roster, what are the chances that he survives an entire season without an injury? Very slim.
Right.
So yeah, that's not a guy I worry about putting on the waiver wire and losing. And truthfully speaking, I don't worry about any guy. Actually, I'm beginning the reverse order of my 53-man roster, and the reverse order means who are my 16 practice squad players? Who are the 16 guys I want on my practice squad? The Brandon Peely's, because no, he doesn't make my 53-man roster. The who else is there? I'm gonna put Malik Washington on my 53, even though I don't think he deserves it. What
about this? I have a question. Out of these 3 players, which one of them will make your roster, if any? Ready?
Okay.
Isaiah Johnson.
Ooh, okay, go ahead.
Storm Duck.
I see where you're going.
And Jason Maitre.
None of them.
None of them.
I'm doing my roster, and I got a booked secondary. Okay, let me give it to you like this. Okay, let's think this through.
Okay.
You got Ramsey, Fuller, and Kohu, your top 3. Okay. Right. Then you got Neal, who's there because of special teams. He's an excellent gunner. He's not much of a cornerback, but he's there for special teams. So that's 4. So you got 2 more spots on your 53-man roster for a cornerback. Think about it. Cornerback. I didn't say safety, cornerback.
Right, cornerback. Got it.
You got Cam Smith, who you're clearly not cutting.
Right.
Ethan Bonner, who's had one of the better camps in a long while, who actually is really, really, really quick and helps you on special teams. And then you've got Nick Needham, who, whether you consider him a safety or cornerback, he can do a little bit of both. He can help you on special teams. But so I'm cutting one of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
So where do I have room for the Storm Ducks, the Isaiah Johnsons, and the Jason Matrix? And I'm not saying that one of them hasn't earned it, because it puzzles me that Storm Duck was working with the starters during the joint practice. Yeah, some guys were not working, but they said, "Hey, you Storm, go in there with the starters and play Mike Evans."
Right.
That doesn't happen by accident. That's intentionally done.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also how a guy performs on special teams, when you're talking about the back 10 spots on the roster, that really dictates where they are. And who knows, maybe Storm Duck is a better gunner than Saron Neal or Cam Smith. So maybe he's on, but the way that I look at it is, do I worry about another team claiming Storm Duck or Isaiah Johnson or Jason Matrix? I don't.
Yeah.
So I just practice squad all three of them. And if one guy gets claimed, oh well, I got two more.
Yeah.
Like,
that seems to be your conducive. Like, do I worry about them claiming them?
Yeah.
If not, goodbye.
Yeah. Tanner Con on my list of people that I worry about teams claiming: Chris Brooks, Tanner Connor, Malik Washington, even though I'm not really that high on him. But he's a draft pick. People get intrigued by draft picks.
Right.
Somebody's always going to claim your offensive lineman, and I think it's just wise for you to keep 9 to 10. That's about it. Mohamed Kamara. But a lot of people will be like, "Oh, you got to keep your draft picks," and I'm not a. I got to keep my draft picks.
On that.
No, yeah, you got to show me something, and I haven't seen. He was shut down for like 10 days with an injury. He didn't really practice that hot before he got injured. Then he started to heat up. I like what I've seen recently, so yeah, he's safe. But I'm not worried. I am always of the opinion that this organization should be claiming guys, not claiming guys. Just like you have a Storm Duck and you have a Tanner Connor and you have a Chris Brooks and you have, the Cincinnati Bengals got him, the Pittsburgh Steelers got him, the Seattle Seahawks got him, and maybe one of them's an offensive lineman. Maybe one of them will be, because I claim. I know this is not going to be a popular opinion, but who's the offensive lineman that everybody thinks I defended him years ago? He was a former. Gosh, I don't have my materials with me. I can't remember his name, but I defended him, and he's a former practice squad guy who was a waiver wire claim for the Dolphins, and he became a 5-year starter. Like, you can go find talent.
Right.
On the guys, and it's not even the first round of guys that are cut. It's the second round when they start claiming guys and signing guys, and they say, "Oh, we initially kept you, but we got to cut you now to make room for this guy. We're going to try to put you on our practice squad." Those are the guys I want. Those are the guys. Come on down.
Yeah.
And maybe you can find an inside linebacker that way. Maybe you can find an edge rusher, because I don't think they're not deep at edge rusher. They're not deep at inside linebacker. They're not deep at defensive line. They certainly are not deep at wide receiver right now. And you could always use an offensive lineman. Go claim 4 guys. See what happens. You never know.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I'm interested to see how it works. I'm glad I'm not them, because the money would be great, but making those tough decisions cannot be easy. So I would not want to be the person sitting across from those guys and having to tell them that they are no longer on the team. That's a tough job.
Yeah, I don't. You know what? It's funny, because I think I'll ask Mike after this game, like, does he have those conversations? Or does he leave that to Chris Grier? Because I really can't see Mike being the bad guy in any situation.
No.
That's just not his thing.
No, that would be a tough one, and he might crack jokes, and it's like,
I think he knows. Yes, he makes jokes, but I think he knows the timing and
when to use it. Yeah,
it's such a difficult time for a lot. Like, people will say, "Oh, why would I watch the third preseason game?" Like, that's the game where I'm the most fascinated by, because guys are playing like their lives depend on.
This is it.
This is it. Like some guys are going to be security at a club, or a PE teacher, or coaching a high school team.
Right.
In about 3 months, if they don't make this work today.
Yeah.
So that's why I love the third preseason game.
I'm excited for it. So since you've been out there and watching, what has been your impression of the new Miami defensive coordinator, Anthony Weaver? Has there been anything that's really stood out to you that you've seen out of him?
Players like him, but players also like Fangio at this point.
Interesting. They did.
Until the bullets start to fly and people's fingers start to get pointed to blame and guys start to get benched or struggle and you face a little adversity, he's always going to be Mr. Popular. Right now he's Mr. Popular. I'm still struggling to learn their defense a little bit. I understand the concepts. It has a Rex Ryan-esque feel to it in terms of you're not really going to be able to figure out and identify who's coming and who's not going. Brian Flores did that as well. But I just don't see that many, and maybe because it's game planning and maybe because we don't know how they're going to utilize guys, I just don't see that many hitters. And when I say hitters, I mean they're guys that are just stone cold assassins that you're gonna put into situations because you're like, that guy's gonna get me a knockout.
Right.
Chop, I think, has the potential to do that. He is not an every down player. Dolphin fans who are thinking that, he needs to be an immediate starter, calm down. He can't set the edge, and if you put him on the field, every team is going to be running at him. And you don't want those problems, and you don't want him to lose confidence. So I think he's going to be a third down situational guy. I think he's going to be the guy that's hovering around the field. Remember that Jason Taylor role when he was with Nick Saban, where he won the MVP of the league, where he cherry picked where he was going to attack and blitz. Chop Robinson has a very unique set of skills that allows him to time the snap and get off the ball. And you saw it in when he made the tackle in the backfield against Washington. It's just a get off that like he's by you by the time you're up in your stance. You're like, holy crap.
Yeah.
That can happen 3-4 times a game. So you put him in a situation where he's rushing 10 times a game. That happens 3-4 times a game. You got impact plays. But expecting him to be a 30-40 snap every down player right now, probably not ideal, just because you'll see what happened against Washington. Washington said, he's there, let's run there. And it's not pretty right now.
Well, it's interesting because yesterday, Mike with Dolphins Talk had NFL linebacker Sean Merriman, who was on our podcast.
Yeah.
And he said he believes Chops Robinson was the steal of the draft and will be defensive rookie of the year. And so I was going to ask you what you thought of that statement.
Defensive rookie of the year means you probably have to get double-digit sacks. I think that's a possibility for Chop. He just has to be schemed up right. I don't think that's going to happen, but it could happen. He's talented at what he does. He needs to add more tools to his tool belt. He needs to get more counters. And that's the thing. When he's blocked. There's no disengagement. So if his get off doesn't bother them, and then they're there in position, it's a done deal. And so I think he's got a lot of work to do. I think he needs a lot of coaching, and that's no different than any rookie. I mean, who remembers Jason Phillips' first season? Jason Phillips was a third down situational pass rusher when he first came to the Dolphins. He was playing on every downs, probably around mid-season. He's heated up late into the year when he was like, okay, I get this now. This is still football. And it takes rookies a minute. It really does. I just don't see him being like the defensive rookie there. And I'm not going to hype people up and tell you that this kid's the best thing since sliced bread, because
Wonder Bread.
There's some Wonder Bread.
Yeah, since Wonder Bread.
Okay.
Have you never had Wonder Bread?
No, I don't think so. Why?
That's like the elite. That's the elite bread. When you think of like the best thing since sliced bread, you're thinking of Wonder Bread.
What about Nature Valley or something like that? I forget. Okay, I'll try Wonder Bread.
You have to. It's not like your like healthy go-to, but like Wonder Bread is like you want that like sandwich that is it's like the buttery bread that's real good. Like you had it when you go into school.
Here's a secret. I don't like sandwiches. I don't eat sandwiches. And I really try to stay away from bread. And if I do eat bread, it's going to be wheat bread, not.
Okay.
Is Wonder Bread just white bread?
It is white bread.
Yeah. No.
It's white bread. Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Multigrain. Give me something with a little sweetness to it. Yeah.
No, I agree. That's what I go for too. But if you're talking about like that soft elite bread, like if you want to not be healthy, Wonder Bread is where it's at.
Bread is so unhealthy. But anyway, so is pasta. So is everything else. There's nothing that is good for you in this world.
Moderation, everything is just fine. In moderation.
Absolutely.
All right. So let me ask you this. You said what you think about him being Defensive Rookie of the Year. Could be, maybe not. But who is the player that you've seen that is kind of flying under the radar who you think might be in store for a breakout season this year? Is there someone you can identify?
Interesting question. I liked what I saw from Jaylen Wright. I think once by mid-season, once he gets a real grasp of the offense, he could be pretty good. I know you got two backs ahead of him that are very good, but you never know when those guys get opportunity. Look at Devon Achane. Like he got outperformed by Savon Ahmed last year. People don't realize Savon was the number 2 back and he had earned that job. And then he got injured, and then we got Devon Achane, and then it was just all over. Jack Driscoll, that just bothers me. That just it puzzles me a little bit. I would like to see what happens if Jack Driscoll is given that right guard spot. I'm an Ethan Bonner fan, card carrying member of the Ethan Bonner fan club. Good players. I thought Anthony Walker was really killing it before he got injured and sidelined. I don't know what to expect. I don't even know if he makes the 53 just because he's injured.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they'd have to give him an injury settlement. I hope he makes the 53 because I thought he really had some talent. This is probably not popular opinion, but
you have so many of those. This is not a popular opinion.
Because I don't follow the pack, and I don't.
Yeah.
Deshaun Hand, I have thought he's had a solid camp every single day. Every time I'm looking at him, he's doing something.
Okay.
And he's shown that, hey, he might be a fringe starter here. Like, I think you could see them begin the season with a line that looks like Zach Sealer, Calais Campbell, Deshaun Hand. And because I don't think they have a nose tackle, and I think Calais might have to play nose tackle, which sounds crazy, but just it is what it is. And Deshaun Hand might be a starter.
Okay.
So I'll go with that name. And people, this is a kid at Alabama who was very highly touted, very, very, very thought of, high draft pick. It just hasn't panned out for him. And he's at that desperation point in his career where, like, I got to make this happen for me. Otherwise, I'm going to be out the league. And you could see him playing with that kind of hunger and fire.
I love it. So we've got Wright and Bonner and Hand, Jack Driscoll. So there's a few names we could maybe be looking for.
Yeah, I think those guys are ready to step up. Chop is going to be fine. He's going to be good. So I think he could very well be an impact player if you scheme him up right. And I think Anthony Walker knows exactly. I think they drafted him with the intentions of doing what they're probably going to do with him, which is he's not an every down end. He's a guy that you put into this gap and you let him go get the quarterback. He beats the guard in the center, creates havoc and pressure. I I think they won't give teams an opportunity to say, okay, let's run at him. So that you put guys in positions to be successful, and they I think this coaching staff is well aware and know how to do that.
Right on. Well, I know you're a busy guy, so I have one last question for you, and then we'll let you get to it. So right now, if you had to give an answer, is this Dolphins roster in 2024 more talented or less talented than the roster in 2023?
Yeah, I did a breakdown in the offseason before we knew all about all the injuries, and there's no doubt in my mind that that the talent has been upgraded. I think the only losses that have not been accounted for are Christian Wilkins and Robert Hunt, and both of them are $100 million players for other teams. You don't have a right guard. You still don't have anybody who replaces Christian Wilkins, and I don't know if you're going to find anybody. But from a talent standpoint, I think they're better at a lot of positions when healthy. They're better at inside linebacker. They're better at tight end when healthy with OBJ. They're better at wide receiver. They're better at running back now that they have Jaylen Wright. And then you got to factor in the growth and development that you're going to see from young players like Cam Smiths and Ethan Bonners and maybe even Javon Holland. I think they're better at safety because they've got two proven clear-cut starters that replace two fringe starters. I don't know how Jordan Poyer is going to play, but I think I like his alpha presence. I like what he brings to the locker room. Do I think he can be a coverage guy? We'll see. So I think they're overall a more talented team. Their coach has more experience. They've got a new defensive coordinator. That's probably going to be an adjustment. And then ultimately Tua is a better player than he was last year. He's 26. He's still young. He's still developing. This is his third year in his offense. He's developed more confidence and comfort with his weaponry. So who's to say that he will not improve? And I firmly believe that he will improve.
Well, that's music to my ears, Omar. I'm glad to hear that. Well, this has been awesome. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. For everybody who's listening and watching, you can follow Omar on socials at Omar Kelly to keep up with all the latest and greatest Dolphins news. Omar, what do you have going on that the people listening need to know about?
My projection of the 53-man roster is coming out. I just gave you on the Miami Herald. It's up now. My training camp superlatives. Guess my top performer, Marissa. Who was my top performer at training camp?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I want you to guess.
Oh, guess who your top. Well, I mean, you mentioned Patrick Paul really impressed you, and that was like your main guy. Would that be it?
No, top performer in training camp was Zach Sealer for the second straight year.
Really? That makes me very happy.
Zach is just a pillar of consistency every single day. It's the lunch pail guy, doesn't take days off, brings it every single day. Like I started thinking about it. I'm like, Zach never took a day off. Everybody else gets a day off. Zach never took a day off, and he brings it every single day. So I gave him that honor of top training camp performer. But
that's really good to know, because some people, were very concerned with the salt and pepper duo when Christian Wilkins left this season. What does Zach Sealer look like, and what is that? But for me, I felt like there were times last season where Zach Sealer had some amazing games. I think there were times that Christian Wilkins' name was kind of put before him because, he was having an amazing season, but I think this could be the season for Sealer to really make a stamp on that defense and, his name to outshine a little bit more than last season.
Absolutely. Zach Sealer had a better year than Christian last year. People don't talk about it, but it is what it is. Zach is proven, accomplished. He's a guy who got it out in the mud. Those are the guys that I really highly respect. So, but I can't name you another player who didn't take days off. I can't. I'm looking at the roster. Can't even count Tua. Cannot name you another player who did not take days off. Zach Sealer. That's why he gets the nod, top performer in training camp. So that's up in the Miami Herald. Told you I'm going to give you my 53-man projection. Then we've also got a special section piece out coming, special section stuff, which is my profile is going to be on Tyreek Hill and how his goal now is to become a first ballot Hall of Famer. Do you realize that there have only been 7 first ballot Hall of Famers at wide receiver in NFL history?
I did not.
Yep. Marvin Harrison was not a first ballot Hall of Famer. Can you imagine that?
I cannot.
That's how hard it is to get into the NFL Hall of receivers the hardest position to get into the Hall of Fame. And clearly Tyreek is gonna be in.
Right.
Because he's
Tyreek Hill. Yeah.
Yeah, he's Tyreek Hill. Like, he's a generational talent. But what he has to do in the next 3 years is match what Calvin Johnson did statistically. And he'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer just like Calvin was.
Well, that's awesome, and rightfully so. I hope that this year for him, the focus is, and I know we're wrapping up, but just because we talked about it last year, I felt so much of the focus was on those 2,000 yards for Tyreek Hill. And I'm just hoping that, he has a great season, but there's a little bit more ball distribution this year that kind of goes around. Although when you throw the ball to Tyreek, it's hard to complain about it because great things happen.
I don't think that that's fair. And here's the reason why I say I don't think that that's fair, that a lot of people criticize Tyreek or the team for wanting, because it's not just Tyreek that wanted 2,000 yards.
Right. No, Mike McDaniel said he wanted it.
Mike McDaniel's the person who wanted it.
Yeah.
Like, that record's going to go down. Why isn't it going to be our guys and our offense that takes it down? Do you realize that Tyreek plays a ridiculously few amount of snaps per game? And it's for the number one weapon in the NFL, he might play 30, 35 snaps. Now, because he's resting, but when he's on the field, generally the ball's coming to him.
Right.
Or he's doing these jets. So he's running and he's working a lot, but he has to rest. So there are plays when he's not on the field. So it's okay for the ball to go other places when he's not on the field. But when he is on the field, if he's not double covered, why would I not want the ball to go into a first ballot Hall of Fame talent who's rated the number one weapon in the NFL and is probably the biggest, baddest, and scariest weapon in the entire NFL? Like, name me another player in the entire NFL, not a defender, who the opposition fears more than Tyreek.
Right. That's why he was rated 1 by his peers, because everyone said they have to adjust their play and their style every time they know they're going to have to play Tyreek Hill.
And now with the cheat motion where you just he's running at you at full speed when the ball is snapped, like, everybody's like, holy crap, like, what do we do with that? Like, so I don't support. I know everybody heard Tua say, everybody was on board with getting Tyreek 2,000 yards. Tyreek is the engine that makes the whole car drive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why would you not? Yeah, you can get fixated with the numbers, but don't you want Tyreek to touch the ball as much as possible?
Yes.
And okay, so you want me, so instead of giving Tyreek 20 passes, you want those 20 passes to go to Braxton Berrios and Durham Smythe.
I think Jaylen Waddle would be the name. I think when you have another player on the team like a Jaylen Waddle, I think if it wasn't him, I don't know that the conversation would even be a thing, but I feel like Jaylen Waddle is kind of like on that precipice, and you feel like he's got more in the bag than he's actually like showing in some of the games. Like, if he had more opportunities, and maybe that's why there was the issue. I think if he wasn't on the team, I don't know it's a topic.
Here's the thing, and just to play devil's advocate a little bit with people who are like, oh, Jaylen Waddle should have gotten the ball more. Do you think that Tua is throwing to a double covered Tyreek as opposed to a single cover Jaylen Waddle? Is that what people really think is going on? Because I can promise you it's not. Like, Tua's if one of those guys is single covered, Tua's throwing to that guy.
Right.
Now, usually they're both double covered.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tua gives it to the running backs. So, can I excuse Jaylen's lack of spectacular plays last season on the fact that too much attention went to Tyreek Hill? No, I can't. I can't tell you that. That wasn't what happened. I think there were just a number of injuries that he was battling through that he still had a 1,000-yard season, and he's missed games. If he didn't miss games, he probably would have been at like 1,300 yards. So, but everybody has their narratives, and that damn Tyreek was getting too much ball.
What a problem to have.
Yeah.
These are some high-class problems we're talking about.
There are indeed some high-class, first-world problems that the Dolphins, yeah. Hopefully both of them just stay healthy. I think the only thing that has prevented Tyreek from getting to 2,000 is health. Two is for his injury. Yeah. And he wants to be the first receiver to do it. It's going to go down at some point, and he wants to be the first receiver.
You think if it's going to be somebody, like, it should be him. I mean, that's the guy. So
he wants that resume to say first receiver to 2,000 yards in NFL history. He does. And and that's, even though he says he's not pushing for it anymore. Come on, we know. Yeah,
I mean, if I was in his shoes, I'd be wanting the same thing. I mean, why wouldn't you want that? Anytime you can break a record or do something that no one's done and like set a new tone, I mean, yeah, you're gonna want to do that.
and people act like he's doing it by getting thrown 15 targets and and catching 10 passes. No, chances are one of those 6 he's gonna break a big one. Wouldn't you? Don't you like the guy who breaks the big one?
We do. We love it, actually. Yeah. All right, we have gone off on a tangent here. Well, we are excited for this next preseason game, and thank you so much for all you've done this offseason to give all of the fans, keep us in the know on what's been going on, and we really look forward to your coverage in season as well. So thank you very much, Mr. Omar Kelly.
Always appreciate it, Marissa, and continue to do what you do, and I will be watching.
Awesome. Sounds great. Well, everybody out there in Dolphins Nation, we hope you have a wonderful day, and fins up.